and welcome everyone to our very first episode of Behind the Curtain podcast. We've all gathered here today to talk about something I think I would like to talk about. It's our first year of college. Hello and welcome. My name is Andy Ortiz, and to my right is
Nina. Hi, I'm Nina.
And to her right.
Hi, Javier Abonza.
And to his left.
Cindy Trujillo.
All right. Guys, so before we start, I want to play a quick little game. It's called Save or Kill. I'm going to give you two options, and then each of you gets to save one option, and then the other one is completely erased from existence. It's like a little personality test to kind of get to know you. So, Javier, I'll start with you. Pepsi or Coke?
Water.
Water. You'll go with water. Okay.
I don't drink
Pick
soda.
one.
Coke, because that's a family drink right there. Everyone drinks it.
Cindy?
Yeah, Coke. I definitely say Coke. Not just because of the names and stuff on the bottle, but because I prefer that one over Pepsi.
Nina?
I'm going to make it unanimous. Coke.
Coke, wow.
Yeah.
I prefer Coke.
Okay. I would have gone with Pepsi myself, but okay. All right, Nina, would you rather use a laptop or a desktop?
Laptop. Absolutely, yes. You can take it anywhere. So.
Javier?
A desktop, just strictly for, that's what I use at home. You can do anything on it. Video game, get your work done. It's a power station.
Cindy?
I use more my laptop, but I think I would prefer a desktop. So desktop would actually be...
Okay. All right. Cindy, how about, do you prefer a live band or have a DJ when you go out and listen to music?
I actually like something about the live band aspect, just the performing, listening to someone's performing arts, and you can kind of feel what they're feeling in the music. So I like live.
Javier?
I would say live band. If it's just getting out of like a regular day of work, I would say live band would be more of a stress reliever instead of like a DJ, like kind of weekend club thing.
Nina?
I prefer a live band. I really like to watch the artist, flow and really get into the art and whatever music that they're embracing.
Right. I agree with all of you. It's a little bit more personal, and then loud music just has a different type of feel. All right, so this last one. Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey? Cindy?
I haven't seen either, I haven't seen 50 Shades of Grey. I've only seen maybe the first or Twilight.
Twilight? You gonna go Twilight?
So I guess Twilight. Yeah, I've seen the first one.
Javier? Remember, one is saved from, and the other one is completely erased from existence.
I think... Oh, man, that's a hard one. I've seen both. Well, like you said, Twilight has like 3. I think I've seen a couple. But 50 Shades of Grey, I think that one sticks more in my memory because of the ending and how it...
Spoiler alert.
Goes... Well, it goes in a direction you don't really think it would go in. At least I didn't think it'd go in. And I was really excited about... Well, I don't want to say excited because of that type of movie, but I was really happy with the ending just because it didn't go in the direction you thought it would go.
All right, Nina, have you seen either, or...?
I haven't seen either of them. I mean, I've seen a piece of Twilight. Those movies in particular don't necessarily appeal to my my taste in movies. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get around to watching them one day, but they're not at the top of my list.
They're very terrible. That was the whole point.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I have good taste.
Yeah. All right, guys. So with like every great story, we begin at the beginning. I'd like if everybody to go around and say what high school you guys went to, and if you studied something in specific in high school. Cindy, we'll start with you.
Okay. I am actually a different case in the sense of I went to 2 different high schools. For my freshman and sophomore year, I went to Woodrow Wilson. It's a DISD high school, and it's my public school near my house. And as far as my junior and senior year, I went to Richland Collegiate High School, which is basically a charter high school, and it's an early college preparatory school. Yeah.
Javier, where did you go to high school, man?
Went to Townview Law Magnet specifically in Oak Cliff. 3 years and a half. Took a half off and went to West Mesquite. So sort of 2 if you count that.
Nice.
And then the bulk of it was a year and a half spent studying law, and I would go on daily trips to downtown Dallas and actually watch cases and write up reports on it. Didn't really learn a thing, but it was cool. And thank you, taxpayers.
Thank you. Nina?
I went to Booker T. Washington for the Performing and Visual Arts in downtown Dallas, and my discipline was theater, and I highly enjoyed it.
Right. Thank you. So everyone kind of has a little backstory about each other. So the next step, obviously, is college. I want to ask you guys, why did you decide to attend college? Or specifically the college that you went to? We'll begin with Javier.
Well, so it's a little bit interesting in my case. I actually graduated, I believe, like, don't quote me on this, but 87 out of like 108 students in high school. I didn't really prepare at all. I didn't really care. I pretty much just went to high school just because my parents told me to go. My parents didn't push college on me at all. My father wanted me to get a trade. He really wanted me to get a trade, be an electrician or a plumber or some sort of just general field that I can go into, because living his life, he knew that that there was money in that trade, and you wouldn't exactly be out of a job. So when I graduated high school, I did have two siblings. My first sibling, Daisy, she went off to college, or she went off to the Navy. And then right, and then let me drink some water. And then my brother did go off to college, but oddly enough, that didn't affect me at all. Like, I really didn't. It's not like he came home every day and was like talking about college or anything. So it was like he practically, didn't talk about it. So I didn't really know much. So I graduated high school, and it didn't hit me until I think a month and a half or 2 months after, when most of my friends, and I say most, and that's probably like 3 or 4 of the actual ones I still kept up with after high school, they were going to college. Like Angela went to SMU, and Kendall went to Texas State. And then I didn't apply to anything. So I didn't get accepted to any. I never applied. I didn't do anything. So I was kind of just like left, I guess, without a boat in the ocean. I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with my life. But
did you have a turning point at the?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but there was a point, I guess, when that hit me finally, like a month and a half into summer. I was like, I need to do something, because, like I need a plan. And so I think I applied to UT Arlington and got in through one of their late programs. And just going through everything and the cost, I was like, yeah, I don't think this is really feasible. Like, it seems like a lot. So luckily, DCCD does a lot of great promotion around just in general Dallas. And I applied and went to Eastfield. So
that was the beginning.
Yeah, that was the beginning.
So did you work during the time that you were off? Just wondering.
Yes.
Okay. So did you ever consider, I guess, instead working versus going into actual college? And just like you said, your dad was thinking more of a trade type or electrician, but instead did you feel like, oh, I don't need school, I can just start working and make my
Yeah, I never really felt like, because I think I know where you're going with this question. A lot of young adults kind of feel like, I have a good job now, I'm making like $15, $20 an hour, like, why do I need college?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think I was making good money back then. I think I was at like 10 or something, 10, 12, and it was hard labor. I think UPS, stuff like that, like lifting 50, 60, 70-pound boxes for 5 hours straight. So I think that might have been also a motivator, to just be like, look, dude, you need to do
You're
something. Like, this isn't feasible for the rest of your life. I think that did it.
Nice.
Right. Nina, do you remember why you attended college?
I was particularly interested in the Meadows program at SMU, and so I auditioned, even though it was kind of funny. I had one of my mentors tell me, it's really hard to get into the Meadows program, so don't be disappointed if you don't get in. and wow, did that hurt. Because I thought, wow, does she not believe that I'm as great as, or good enough to get in? And there were several other people auditioning to get into the program, and I kind of wanted to show her that I could do it. And I got accepted, and I think she was taken aback a little that I was accepted. Me along with 2 other classmates that I had at the time, and we had probably about 10 other people within my high school that auditioned that didn't get in. So. Oh. Yeah, so it was
very competitive.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It was very, very competitive, but yeah, no, they have a great program. And
do you remember what your audition was? Did you have a monologue or?
I did. I had a monologue, and we also had to sing a bar of music. And I can carry a tune, just like I told them. I said I'm not a singer. I don't do musical theater. It wasn't my preference, but they did have me sing a bar of music, which luckily I had to sing on stage my senior year, and so I just sang that.
Very nice. Cindy, why did you attempt to choose college?
Well, actually, for me, I'm the youngest of 4 in my family, and all 3 of them were already in college, so I kind of already saw that light or that path for me. The difficult part for me, though, is because unlike my siblings, they all went to magnet schools, and I started going, for high school, I went to a public high school. And it was very difficult for me to accept that, hey, I'm just going to graduate from a public school. And not that it's just a public school, because in the end, the education was still great. But I felt like, okay, I want to improve myself. I want more for myself. How can I get that? And that's when I heard about Richland. And it was actually a new school at the time. I applied. It was not even a formal application as much as a lottery ticket. The first 200 who got chosen got to go to that school off of a lotto. So it was pretty interesting, and I was like, well, maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. So,
I'll buy you scratch-off tickets with you next time.
Yeah, sounds good. But yeah, so basically from there, I chose to go to Richland, and then from Richland, I just knew, okay, I got to choose what school, what college I want to go to, and I was basically applied to 3 schools, and since my siblings had all gone to SMU, my first choice was SMU. But yeah.
Very nice.
SMU was actually my second choice.
What was your first?
UT Austin.
UT Austin, okay.
Yeah, it seemed like the Texas thing to do.
Stars and stripes, man.
Yeah.
Oh, the stars at night. Sorry, the stars at night are big and bright.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also like the whole marketing. Like any store you go to, you'll always see A&M stuff, like Aggies, and you'll always see UT Austin stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of was like a thing. It was like marketing in a way, and it did make me want to go there a lot. It's not a really good reason at all to go there, but.
All right. So at this point in our story, we've all gone accepted into college. We're there. Nina, do you have a first memory of living in a college dorm?
I do. I remember walking up to the dorm and just feeling very excited. I knew that my roommate was going to be my cousin, so we were both really excited to be together. I remember walking up and meeting, our resident assistant, hall assistant, and then just all of our suite mates and everyone on the floor, and everyone was from different places and different states, and it was just really, really exciting and cool to experience that. So I do remember that memory, just standing in front of the dorm, unloading our first load from the car was just huge. It was huge.
Imagine like a scene in a movie. Like Nina arrives to the dorm, like she has her suitcase in hand, and like she looks up, and like that's the shot right there.
That's a pretty good description of it. That's kind of what it was for me as well. First time living in a dorm.
Yeah.
It's a pretty different experience. I mean, before doing that, there's nothing that I could compare it to, because it was always just family or, nothing was the same beforehand.
Were you scared at any point in that moment?
No, I think I was the opposite of scared, and I think that was probably a bad thing. I think I should have been more scared. I remember
the scare came later for me. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm by myself.
Yeah, no, I was ready to get out of the house and just, did stupid things. So I remember
You've seen the movies, huh?
Yeah, Kind of like the whole band camp thing.
Did y'all have that like scare once y'all had to go get your first grocery list, or no? You feel like that was.
Oh man, yeah, my bank account was scared for me.
That's what he said. I'm pretty sure that's exciting too. Of course, like, hey, I'm doing this on my own, independent.
I get to buy stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that part was. I remember going home every day. I'd open up the door and just yell like kitchen raid and like grab stuff from my mom's refrigerator. She's like, thanks.
That's nice.
Cindy, do you have a first memory of living in a college dorm?
Actually, I do not. I lived with my parents all 4 years throughout college. The only experience that I have that's somewhat close to, I guess, dormitory experience would be living in Taos, New Mexico, which was basically a study abroad program offered through SMU. And I got to do that for 1 full month. And that was really exciting for me. For some reason, I just enjoyed it. I felt like, I don't know how much I can say it was more of a dorm experience as much as it was a camp experience, because they had, of course, the cafeteria, all that stuff, but I still like the whole thought of, okay, hey, I wake up for class, I had a roommate, which was my sorority sister, Angela, and she actually put my name down on the list. I didn't put hers, in the sense of, she was like, oh yeah, I just knew you were coming, so I chose you as my roommate, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. That startled me to realize we were going to be roommates.
I was really grateful for that, that they actually had, you could write down someone that you would like to share with. It may not happen, but the fact that you could write that down, I was, hoping for it and excited that they even offered that.
And a lot of people actually don't know that. That's something
Really?
Interesting that you
I think it's important,
put a preference.
If you can, to be with someone familiar. I don't know, just, or I think it helps. Not that it's important, but it helps to have someone that to venture into college life, because I heard some horror stories like within the first week where people were just like, I need to be out of this room. I cannot share with this person. We are complete opposites. They play their music too loud, or they sleep all day, or there's just all these differences that I think that if you have if you know each other a little bit, you don't have that. You already know each other and you kind of respect each other's ways, and you're more similar, I think.
Javier, did you know your roommate coming into the dorm?
Chris, I believe I did. I knew Chris.
Like you knew him beforehand?
Yeah.
So
How did y'all know each other? Through high school, or yeah?
No, through, I think, the SAMHSA, how everybody at SMU, at least from my experience, kind of like knew each other. I don't know. I think pretty much the gateway for me into just the social crowd at SMU was Angela.
your friend from high school.
Right. And if it wasn't for her, I might have never, ever gone to, like, the SAMHSA, or I would have just stuck to myself like I did in community college, because I didn't talk to... I think I had, like, one friend in the first 2 years of community college. I just went to the school, did my stuff, went home, worked, didn't socialize at all. So I think that's why when I did go to SMU, it was sort of like going to college for, like, my first year. Because it was the dorms, it was meeting like a million people, doing.
Yeah, because that's when I met you.
Yeah, so
but
was.
I don't think Chris was your first roommate.
No, Chris wasn't my first roommate.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't my first roommate at the Surf's house.
Okay.
First
Your
roommate.
first roommate.
Yeah, my first roommate was like
that's where I met
Venkat
you.
something. Yeah, from India.
Vignesh.
Vignesh. Yeah. God, he loved like the AC set at like -60. The guy was like a freaking penguin, man.
I think those were all the dorms, by the way.
Oh Lord,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
terrible,
Yeah,
dude.
it was really cold in those
I was
dorms.
like, bring those cobijas, like the really thick ones from
Covers.
like.
the comforters.
Thick comforters.
Jeez. Yeah.
I didn't know my roommate. Mine was like a completely random thing. I just knew his name was Craig, and I couldn't say his last name. And like I walk in the first day, and he's there with his dad, and he's like setting up. And it's just one of those things where you meet someone randomly, but it changes your life, because till this day, Craig and I are still friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
We still talk, even though he lives in Houston now, but we still have that friendship that has carried through. We call each other on our birthdays, and we keep up with each other, even though, he's not that far away, but the friendship for me has continued, and that was something I did not completely expect at all for me to happen.
That's the complete opposite, actually.
Yeah,
So that's pretty good for you.
Yeah, I got really lucky in that sense.
I kind of was just like, thank you, semester, for being over. I'm away from this guy.
Well, see, I've heard different experiences like that. I mean, I've heard people who've become really good, like, best friends, and then I've heard those that are basically like, I guess they just...
I just had to, like, co-live with him, really, that's it.
Exactly. Or
You just
they
showed
really
up and he
don't,
was there?
I guess,
Yeah.
still communicate or conversate with,
Yeah.
with them. Or
Yeah. I like Andy's version better.
But yeah.
All right. So once you guys are in the dorm, you've met your roommate, and you've realized that mom and dad are not there to supervise you. How is that? How is living on your own for the first time in your life? From listening to you guys, since you only had a month in Taos, but do you still remember that, not having your mom and dad there to tell you what to do? And
Actually, for some reason, I felt, I don't know what the correct word to describe
Liberated?
it. Yeah, exactly. I felt excited. I guess liberated. That's a very good one. I don't know why,
the
but
tyranny of home.
I don't know if it was also just being in the outdoors and doing something I've never done. Like I said, it was more of a camping experience for me in the sense of, hey, I've never hiked. Hey, I've never got up in the morning. And even since, like, they helped me out. Like, there was one time that I almost missed my van and my class field trip. They were all about to take off. I was like, I have to go. Like, I had to quickly put my contacts in, brush my teeth, and thankfully I just, like, started running after the car. And when I ran after the car, they opened the door, I jumped into the van, and then one of my friends was like, here, I have a granola bar and I have a water. I was like, thank you. So there I had, like, a life-saving moment. But truthfully, when you don't have mom and dad, you don't have those little things of, hey, they would leave something out for you, or hey, they'll help you get ready, or hey, they'll help be your second alarm clock or something. But I don't know, for some reason I felt like I was able to take control of me, and it felt a little bit more independent, liberated. And so, yeah, I enjoyed that little month period I had. And I wish I would have had that dorm experience looking back, to be honest.
Nina, were you ready to live on your own without your parents' supervision?
Absolutely, I think so. I'm the eldest of 4, so I felt
She just wanted to get away from Cindy.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, I'm very ready. I was pretty prepared and pretty independent already, so I was ready. I didn't necessarily go too crazy, like party life or anything. I was really disciplined into my theater, so at least the first year.
Yeah.
I didn't end up majoring in that, but at least my first year.
Complete thespian? Like,
Yes,
complete method the whole time?
We lived and breathed the theater. I mean, they are very, very. It's a very intense program, and I would wake up in the morning and be in there in the Meadows School of Arts at 7 a.m. and I would not leave till 11. So,
whoa.
Yeah, it was, and so yeah.
So you left to live in the dorms like first year of college?
Yes.
Okay, and so you were the first.
Yes.
So what was the difference between you doing that and you not doing that?
I guess, so one thing that I guess Javi's pointing out is both Nina and I are sisters on there for our listeners who are listening. The other aspect, I guess, to answer your question, is mom and dad actually lived in a different part of Dallas, which was a little further. And Nina, I guess, chose that experience and wanted that to live on campus. And because we moved to be closer to home, it was literally like 8 minutes away from school. We almost felt like, well, is there really a need? I think my dad also kind of convinced us financially. Is that something that well worth it? And honestly, that did have an impact because of course, parents are going to be parents. They're going to want to look out for your best interests also for loans and stuff like that. So I feel like that's probably where my dad kind of maybe tailored that. I never officially said, oh, I wanted to move out or I wanted to live on campus. But looking back now, I can see where people have grown. Even my best friend who moved from India and came into a dorm, and she told me, wow, I just learned so much, not even just moving from one country to another, just living on my own. And I feel like there's something there, though, that, of course, I won't be able to relate until I do live on my own. Right now I'm still living at home. But, yeah, so I think that's where the gap was. Basically, Nina made that choice to do that. So, yeah.
And with the theater program, it was almost a requirement. I mean, I went in at 7 a.m., we were done at 11, and part of that was class, but the other part was we had to assist in the theater programs that were happening, or, the shows, and help with hanging lights, or help with costumes, or, even if we weren't in the show, freshmen, were very
Production.
involved, and, in all of putting the production together.
So this is 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., Monday through Friday?
Yep.
Your freshman year?
Yeah.
Wow.
I took 18
That's intense.
hours.
I mean, I knew
18
the
credit hours
program.
my first year, and it was pretty much all theater except for a couple core. Like I did Cal 1 and English. I remember taking those two the first semester, and then but
I remember the kids, the theater kids, being really intense at school because they were always trying to perfect their craft, and like kudos to them if to put that much
dedication.
talent,
Just to add, that was my favorite place to go study at the Meadows Library. I was like, I don't know why, but something about going into even just that building just made it feel so like I'm not about to start studying and slamming the books. It just felt lively. That I was like, oh, okay, I get to hear a little bit of, I guess, arts before I walk in. But yeah, sorry.
I agree that library in particular doesn't feel like a library.
Yeah.
Javi, were you ready to live on your own?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tiny house. I had to share a room with my brother, and the dorm was like what a king size bed is to like the opposite of king size. I don't know, what's below a twin?
Full.
Full, yeah.
Full.
Oh, wait, no,
What's
Whoa.
no, twin is
Twin-
sorry,
twin
twin
is-
is
yeah.
the smallest.
Twin is the smallest?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a twin at home, and it was like a king at the dorms. So yeah, I was ready.
Is ready? I think I have the only one that's different here because I remember just being scared of not wanting to live on campus, but it was kind of a requirement, and I did it. I'm glad I did it, but I remember just kind of having a little bit of tension. I come from a single parent home, so it was just me and my mom since I was 6. So to be used to that was a huge change for me, even though school was in the same city. I was still kind of terrified about a new experience, meeting new people, but I'm glad I did it. It changed my life, and I'm forever grateful for that.
So who all went into SMU like knowing someone, and who went in like without knowing anyone?
I think I knew a couple people from high school.
Like actively like spoke to them and they were friends.
Nobody.
Yeah, because for me,
I didn't know anybody,
Because I'm
right.
hearing you speak, and I'm like, yeah, I wasn't terrified at all. But I knew Angela, like she was my really close friend, so I wasn't scared at all. I was like, she immediately like introduced me to people. She immediately like did everything that you would want someone to do whenever you're going to a new place.
That's
So that's why for me, I'm like, oh, I never really had that kind of. I had that about like taking exams.
Yeah.
That's about it. Though.
yeah.
I was terrified about taking exams at SMU,
To
dude.
the test.
Yeah, because it was coming from community going to SMU, and you hear all the rep, and it's just like a community. I had a 3.9 GPA leaving Eastfield, and I was just like, my first couple of exams, the first semester, I was just terrified. I was just waiting for those D's, dude. Because it was just like, yeah, Eastfield was like Eastfield and SMU. But, yeah, it was college is college.
You got by.
Yeah, you get by. You just.
All right, so now that you guys have kind of painted the story here of going from high school to college, how was that transition for you? Javi, you mentioned a little bit with your tests, but Cindy, did you notice a big transition in your life going from high school into your first year of college?
Actually, along the lines with what Javi said, because I did go to Richland Community College, or the collegiate high school. It's like early high school / college, early college / high school. I was very terrified of, one, how big the campus was, and two, and I say it's not even big compared to student body, but big, like, even just the size of it, from like one building's on one cross of the field, and then you have to walk the boulevard to another class, and I was a little nervous about that. I don't know why. It just like how large it was, and then I was also nervous of the test taking and the classes and the rigorousness, because I was thinking, well, I succeeded in a community college, and just along the lines of what you said, am I going to succeed here? Like, I felt also that I think I weighed that down on myself. I'm not going to succeed. And so that was really hard. The other thing, I guess, to point out to that was, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
You're fine. Keep going.
Anyways, so I guess with moving from the school, I noticed that I had a hard time approaching professors versus teachers, because teachers, it's a different classroom setting, and when you have to go approach professors, you're having office hours, and it's not everyone typically does that. And I was that student who was like, oh, okay, they have an office hour set. I went to every office hour. Because
You were there.
I was there, yeah, because I thought that was like what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to go there. It's from 1 hour block or 2 hour block. And in high school, you have teachers that, hey, you're going to ask them a question, raise your hand. Hey, it's completely different in college. And so that was something that was that I got used to and had to learn or even communicate or conversate with them. So I liked it, though. I liked the fact that they were there just as much as your high school teachers. Not everyone took advantage of it.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right.
So I noticed that.
So you recommend definitely.
I recommend it, for sure. I got really close with my professors. I definitely.
I'll tap on that topic. I was actually pretty intimidated to go and approach the professors. Not so much at Eastfield. At Eastfield, it was more of a, smaller. SMU was small too, but it was more of a, you can kind of just relate to the teacher in a way, I guess, and it wasn't as intimidating. But at SMU, because it had this just the SMU stigma in my first semester, I was like super intimidated because I felt like I would go in there and just be like, oh yeah, I didn't really understand this, and they would be like, weren't you paying attention? How smart are you? Why are you even here? That's why I was like, yeah, I'll just not ask.
No, and I completely got that a couple of times. I actually had one teacher take the paper from my desk when I was writing, and she goes, no, I told you not to do the problem that way. And she crumbled it and chunked it in the trash. And we're in office hour. So, my heart just starts pumping, oh my gosh, I just got in trouble. And it's my chemistry professor. But she's basically trying to teach me, no, drill me, hey, that's not the way you work the problem. But I went the next day, and and the more and more I just kept approaching her, the more and more I got comfortable. And I even later asked her for a letter of recommendation post-college. But I will completely agree with you. It was so intimidating, so hard. I guess the part that was intimidating is approaching the professor and thinking, oh, they have such high authority, but in the end, they're just a person like us. And I think that's what I'm realizing just in life. Everyone is just a person. We can communicate, we can talk. There shouldn't be a division between, I guess, their authority or what positions they hold. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Javi and Cindy mentioned approaching professors is a lot different in college than in high school. Did you see anything? Did you have a similar experience, or was there anything completely different than what they said?
No, I had a similar experience depending on the professor, right? So my physics teacher or my Cal teacher was a little more intimidating, and sometimes there was a little bit of not a language barrier, but some of them had really thick accents.
Yes.
And so it was very difficult to communicate with them sometimes. Yes. But there were some professors that I really looked up to, and so I wanted to get to know them. So I would purposefully, go into their office and talk to them and meet them and say, hey, we talked about this. Let's talk a little bit more about it. And I had a great time doing that, and was invited to have dinner with, a couple of them at their home and meet their families. And so it was.
Yeah, that's always the weirdest part. One of my teachers did that senior year. I think he invited the whole class. Yeah. But we all had a drink. Yes. We all had a drink together.
Yes.
And it's just the weirdest thing. I'm having a drink with my professor. We had scotch, so.
And I think that's really neat of the professor to do, because they're putting you at their level of, hey, I'm comfortable with you. They're making you feel welcomed. And so that's where I was saying that the fear comes in. But there it's just no, hey, I want to welcome my own home to you.
Right.
And I think it all depends on how you approach a situation or approach a relationship with your professor. So I think it's really important just to know, like you said, they're a person, and they're there to teach. And they love to do that. They want to do that. I don't think that they would be doing it if they didn't want to. So definitely make it a point, especially for those professors that inspire you and that that you feel you want to know more about. I had I actually worked for a professor. She wasn't my professor, but I worked for her. I graded papers for her, and I helped her with some tests and all of those things. And I got more and more curious about her, but I got to learn more and more about her the more I spent time with her, the more questions I asked, and most of my professors seemed very open to relating to you and to wanting to help you. So I had a really great experience.
One thing that I'll never forget was senior year, the same professor that invited us to his house, he said, at the end of this year, you are all going to graduate. And at the end of this, you will be my peers. You will be my equals. And that's something that I've never forgotten. And I always try to look at life that way. If I'm helping somebody and it's like a course type of thing, like at the end of this, you're going to be my peer, my equal. And I just thought that was really great for him to say. Yeah. All right. So now, Javi mentioned a little bit about being scared about taking tests.
Terrified.
Javier, was there anything else that you had a little bit of fear in school, or was it just a test?
For now, off the top of my head, number one thing was the tests. I guess the number two thing for me was socializing, fear of just reaching out and meeting new people. Where I come from, my background is completely different from SMU and where most people come from that go to that school. And B, it's personally, I'm just not very, sociable. I'd rather not talk to people. So I guess you combine those two, and it's like you get this person that's really reserved. And some people will kind of figure it out, and your friends will know. But I did my best to not make it show. So to everyone, I hope it was just he just doesn't talk, he's blah blah. But on the inside, it's kind of I did have that fear of every new interaction was kind of where's this going? Can I go now? It was that awkward moment. And in university, I kind of felt forced to play it out. And now it's just I'm out. I don't care. If I'm at work and new people come and they're starting a conversation and I really don't want to be there, I'm just do the politest thing I can do and just go do my own thing.
It's so funny that you say that, because that is the first impression I had of you. Is in one of the dorms. It was after hours. You're always just walking around. You kind of looked a little bit lost, not knowing that you kind of wanted to be there, but
yeah,
it was you were just passing by. That's so funny. That's the exact what you just said is the impression of my first impression of you, and I'm so glad that it's changed now that we're friends, because now that's a completely 180 from that.
Yeah. And I think just with time that helps as well.
Nina, was there something that made you afraid your first year of college?
I had a little bit of fear with finding my own group, I guess. Just finding people that were like me, even though I'm very outgoing and I'm an extrovert and I can get along with almost everyone. I am pretty reserved in my own way, and so finding other people who kind of matched the inner part of me was important to me, and I was afraid that I wasn't going to find that. Having my cousin was great, but
did that hold you back? Did you?
A little. She kind of did her own thing, and made a group of friends, and started doing that. But I wasn't really clicking with the group of friends that she had created. So I was kind of. I felt a little lonely the first year. The first year, and then I met a really good friend in the theater school that I felt was most similar to my temperament and who I am. So, but yeah, it was that was the biggest thing that scared me. Yeah. But yeah, and I was scared of tests too. But I'm I don't know. I brush things off a little too well, I think, sometimes. So yeah. So I'm okay, next time, whatever, this was hard, but I'm gonna learn from this and get back up and keep going. So, but I had a fear of that too, because I'm not a great test taker. I was so happy when some of the professors offered an oral exam to go and take that.
Yeah, I was gonna say what kind of exams would you have in theater?
That was just my first year. I don't know. So I was in the theater program for my first year.
Right.
But I ended up transferring out, and I majored in engineering and psychology. So in theater, we had exams about the history of theater, or I had a lighting class, and so we had to know all of the lights and their positions, and the coloring that you would use on the stage, warm and cool, and the impact that made on people. And so and then in costuming, we learned about specific times, like Renaissance, or the 1920s or the 1950s. So we studied, and we had to do projects on those particular things. So that's kind of what our exams consisted of. And then there's the fun stuff. Oh my gosh, my first year we had to write our own monologue, but it had to be kind of an internal artistic piece. And for me, it was extremely freeing, but we did have a bit of an incident. I think it was a little too freeing for one of my my peers, and not in the sense that, anyway, it was a little eye-opening for me, where I was like, oh man, like we're really getting artistic in here, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm going off track, but yeah, that's kind of what my test consists of. And then I took how what did I start with? I think I took how 1 in high school, and so I did 2 and 3, and then all of the stuff you have to do for engineering. So so those classes were a little harder. And when I decided to move to engineering, it was all new to me. So my first programming class, I stumbled a little, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And
I stumbled a lot.
I stumbled a lot too.
Yeah, but I made some friends, and worked with them, and said, nope, I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to make it happen, because there was something intriguing about it that I really, really enjoyed. So, yeah, I did that.
Cindy, was there something that you were afraid of your first year of college?
Other than, some of the stuff that was already talked about, I guess socializing with people, making friends. I'm a very introverted person. I'm actually the opposite of my sister. I feel like I keep to myself, so that was a little hard for me. And other than approaching the professors and asking questions, it just had to get accustomed to that. There was one thing that I kept doing, and not until my other sister, Amy, who's pretty much like my roommate, I should say, we both shared a room at home together.
It was terrible, wasn't it?
No, it was actually wonderful.
I'm speaking from sharing my room with my brother, and it was god-awful.
Well, I guess it was wonderful because it was just the two of us. We've been all 4 of us in one room before, so it kind of died down since then.
That's the reason I needed to go to
That's
the
what you needed. Yeah.
Which is why Nina was ready to head out the door, which makes it complete sense.
I'll see you guys in 6 months.
creative in the house,
We
but
did. We did. So the hardest thing that she pointed out to me, and she was like, Cindy, you're not going to enjoy college if you keep doing this. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, you keep comparing SMU to Richland. And you're like, well, Richland, I used to be able to do this. Or Richland, I would study here. Or I'd make better study groups. Or so-and-so. Or I had this friend with me. She goes, stop comparing SMU to Richland. She was like, just go in there and enjoy SMU. Embrace SMU. Go and when she pointed that out to me, that I was doing that, I was like, she's so right. I'm doing that. I keep doing that. So that was something that I guess a transitional moment for me.
And you had to overcome that.
Yeah.
Realize, hey, I'm in a different place now, a new environment,
Exactly.
a new opportunity to do something different. Everyone's really scared of change, but
Oh, I definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very much stick to order and structure, so I am very scared of change.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why, like, basically how you were explaining that dorm experience for you, of you were terrified, you were nervous, that would have been me completely. Although looking back now, I'm like, wow, talking to friends and seeing how much they've grown from it, I see why I would have liked to have undergone that, I guess, that experience.
The tests.
Mm-hmm. But I know I would have been terrified, and I know I would have been so nervous and nerve-wracking because it would have been something different. And something different always stressed me out. I'm a very easily stressed person. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah.
Okay. Nina, you mentioned you were going from classroom to from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. How did you prioritize your schedule? How did you sleep at all?
You know, I'm, oh goodness, no, not really. I don't need sleep.
I'm not really human.
No, I don't need
I'm a
sleep.
machine.
No, well, I mean, coming from Booker T, you know, having gone to Booker T, it's also a pretty intense program too. So I already kind of had that schedule. So it was just kind of moving into a new place and a new space to do that. So as far as my outside courses, I mean, I kind of live that way, and I feed off, you know, going from 7 to 11 and, you know, prioritizing all of my things just back to back to back to back to back. And I mean...
And that hasn't changed? That hasn't changed
No.
till today?
No. If I don't have enough to do, I'm depressed. Like, it is... I mean, Cindy...
She loves having a lot on her plate. I will definitely verify that, yeah.
I mean, always, always. When
That fits perfectly with the engineering then.
Well, yeah.
Because there's always a lot to do. And then...
No, yeah, there is. When I got my first job full-time, I had my full-time job, but then I worked like part-time with an advertising company, and then I worked part-time teaching, you know, adults with disabilities, and then I worked part-time at a bookstore, and I'm like, you know, everyone's like, what are you doing? You already have your full-time job, you have your benefits, and I'm like, I have time after I get out of that to do other stuff, you know? So,
how did you keep track of all this?
in my head.
In your head? Wow.
Seriously, yeah. In my head. I just went with it, and yeah, I mean, yep.
So you've had that determination to like, hey, I'm gonna go out and accomplish something today. And
yes.
You've lived like that your whole life.
Yes,
Wow,
every day. I've always just had that internal will, you know, that's given to me, and I've always felt an internal responsibility to give, and so I just couldn't give enough, you know, and I'm like, you know, when I'm sleeping, I'm not giving, so I can't sleep. I don't need to sleep.
In your sleep, do you dream about giving? That sounds like some sort of concept album.
No.
She just wakes up and she's like, I had the best dream.
In sleep, do you dream about giving?
Actually, no, but I sometimes am awoken at, like, you know, the wee hours, and I give in prayer sometimes, you know, just because I wake up and I think about whatever it is that I'm thinking about, you know, at the time, whether I met someone and I was like, you know, that person really needed the prayer, so I pray, or you know, I don't know, I just saw someone, or it just reminded me for whatever reason. It wakes me up at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
So I have a question, maybe both of you. So is that something that was like just innate within you, like you were just born with it, or did it have to do something with like some factors growing up? I mean, within your siblings, the rest of the siblings, like,
so I mean, you can already see we're completely different, right?
Yeah, so I mean like,
it's kind of interesting. Nina seeks adventure, and she likes a lot on her plate, and she's ready to take and help. And I feel like we both have that aspect of I enjoy helping others, and I'm excited to try new things to some extent. I feel like Nina embraces it differently than I do. I don't know if that's where you're going along.
Well,
but I guess how we were raised.
Right. Did your parents' personality like reflect that on you? Or?
Absolutely. I mean,
and is it just that Cindy just kind of like, I don't want to be like them?
Maybe since I was the fourth one. No, I feel like I'm very much like my parents as well. So I feel like maybe a little bit more like Dad. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, well, that's an interesting question. My parents had me at a very, very young age. So my mom was 16 and my dad was 18, and then he was like 19, like 3 days later or something. But anyway, we kind of grew up in a little bit of a different way, because then, you know, in their later 20s, you know, they had my brother and sister. And so they had 2 of us early and then 2 of us a little later. And so I think for us, it was, you know, we were always together and surviving, but also remembering to give and to love. And I think, I mean, it was that way for you too, but I think there was a little bit...
less stressful, or?
I don't know about less stressful, I guess.
No, it's a different kind of stress.
It was a different kind of stress, and I think when you're that young of a parent, there's still some of that innocence, you know, and that love and that what am I trying to say? Just
open-heartedness, like you're much more. I don't want to say naive,
But kind of.
But yes, I mean, I think that is a good way to put it. I mean, my parents were a little bit more naive. I mean, the perfect
You're more
description.
optimistic.
Yes.
They're basically saying that Nina and them grew up together. Like, and I really do see it that way.
Yeah, and so I always saw my parents striving for more, right? So my parents didn't graduate high school because my mom got pregnant, and then they went back and went to college, and then to get their associates, and but they never stopped. They were always striving and achieving, and and giving. Like I mean, my dad still was PTA president. My mom still was very involved at the school, and just constantly giving and striving to be better. And I think I saw that at a very young age because we were almost doing it together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That really surprises me about knowing some of your family members, because your brother and I were, I think my senior year had like 4 classes together. Uh-huh. So I really got to know him too. And now he's doing law school. I thought, like, why is he doing law school? He's been like jumping around, but it kind of makes sense in knowing who you guys are, that like you guys are always striving for better.
Yeah, we're not done yet. I guess there's something else for us to try.
Right.
There's always something else.
And you too, Cindy, because you're always, hey, I'm doing this program now. I'm doing that program now.
I hope that doesn't reflect in your relationships.
I've been committed for years.
Oh yeah, I have to. Yes, me too. I that's pretty funny. I did say that one time. I don't know. I think I was at the makeup store or something. This is off topic, but this lady's like showing me a new color, and I'm like, okay. And she's like, oh, well, what's your normal color? I'm like, I'm not committed to anything. I said, except my husband. Like that is it. My husband is the one thing that I'm completely committed to. But anyway, yeah, I think it's not just wanting to do better. It's just being taken in different directions and led really to do different things at different times. And I remember my dad telling me when you go and you get your degree, you may not even end up fully utilizing everything immediately, but eventually and at some point in your life it may be important. It may be important, right? So I majored in psychology, and I don't do, other than I took child development, things like that, and I have children, so learning and watching them develop has been interesting to have that background. But also I've met a lot of people that I can understand because I was able to major in that degree and help really and say, and ask them the right questions and help them, in whatever they're challenged with or going through so I've definitely used every aspect of everything I've ever learned, which sounds crazy because it has been a little bit all over the place.
That's pretty interesting. Just you mentioned that you use your degree, because my sister majored in psychology, and every time I talk to her about something, I feel like she always like pulls out a sheet of paper from a binder. She's like, "Here you go, like run through this," and I'm just like,
she's psychoanalyzing me.
Like, yeah, having conversations with her is a little fun because I feel like when I feel like I'm right, then I double think, and I'm like, well, am I really right? Because she is the psychologist, so yeah, it's interesting.
Well, they're using that degree every day. Huh?
Yeah.
They're socializing with people, so yeah, I definitely. It's something that I guess, like Nina said, my dad did tell us that from the get-go. Our dad basically said, hey, if you're going to utilize or you may or may not utilize your degree. And I do agree with that because here I am. I majored in biology and I'm working in the IT department. And I almost feel, sometimes you go a certain path and you're like, why did I choose this? Or why am I going this route if this is completely different than what my degree is? But I do feel there are certain times in my life that, hey, it comes back into play. So.
With that in mind, I want to point out that philosophy is the study of wisdom. Wisdom only comes through suffering. I'm a Texas Rangers fan, so we have suffered a lot. And hopefully you've learned a lot. And I want to ask, I'll start with Javier. Would you go back and change anything about your college experience, or would you just relive it all again?
I think I would go back and change. How I would basically do what Nina did. I would try to mimic that, just throw as much as I could possibly throw on my plate, because looking back, I learned so much, but I could have learned so much more. And I didn't take advantage of that as much as I could have. So I would definitely go back and just try to do as much as I could and learn as much as I,
Absorb.
absorb as much as I possibly could. Instead of, maybe going out to events that, didn't really need to go. But, yeah.
Cindy?
I guess going back and I would definitely change things. So I would want to, I guess, do internships during the summer. I hear that that's a big benefit, a big plus. I would have loved to have studied abroad for a full semester. I only did 1 month, and that was technically in the States. So venture out to another country. The other thing I guess I think about is maybe, I chose a college close to home, and I actually like that. But if I was, I guess, away from home, then I feel like living on campus would have been more, or would have been more acceptable, not acceptable, but beneficial, yeah, exactly. So I almost feel, exactly. So maybe living on campus, but because I live so close to home, and
You didn't get that full experience.
I don't feel that I needed to live on campus, like, fully, but I would have still liked to have had that a little bit.
Nina?
Relive it all again.
You would?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and
Put more on the plate, yeah.
Put more on the triple major.
Yes, I would totally relive it. But yeah, I mean, if I could I didn't study abroad either, and I think that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Although I visited my sister while she was studying abroad, so that was awesome. She was like crying, and she's like, "Dad," oh, she's probably gonna get mad at me for saying this. But anyway, she's like, "Dad, I want to come home," and he's like, "She's just so homesick." I was like, "I'll go see her." And he was like,
I'll volunteer.
suggestion.
I'll take the hit for the family.
Told you, Nina takes on any adventure right there.
So I got to do that in that way anyway. But yeah.
Okay, guys. So now we've reached this part of the show, where I will read off a piece of news relating to our topic, and then we'll go around if we'll accept it as reality or perception. So it's reality and perception. I'm going to read off the news. If you accept it, you'll say reality. If you don't, and you think you can change it, you'll say perception. So, my first point today is, according to the Pew Research Center, employed millennials between the ages of 25 and 32, 86% of those with a bachelor's degrees or greater believe they have a career, compared to those with only a high school degree who only believe that only 57% of those believe that they have a career. Cindy, reality or perception on this news?
I guess reality. I feel like I can see where that statistics comes of people feeling that they have a job. However, when you're young and you're making money, sometimes it's easy to get locked up in, oh wow, I'm getting $20 an hour. That's a lot of money. But I guess later, as you get older and you start reaching 30 or 40 years old and you're still doing, you realize maybe I should be doing more. I should have that education and all that stuff. So I don't know. I feel like that, but that statistic sounds like reality.
Reality? Okay. Javier?
I kind of agree with that. The age range is on the low end, I would feel, for people to have the mentality of where, yeah, this is a career, and as you get older, you kind of know more whether this is a career or not. But I would say 57% for high school graduates would be pretty high to think that it's a career. I honestly, I would have thought it'd be lower, 32. I just strictly speaking from the fact that I think a lot of people that I've met that just got a degree or got a high school diploma, like, hate their jobs. They don't really want to be there. They kind of like switch around. It's not stable. So I wouldn't think 57% consider it a career. I would have thought 20 to 30.
It's surprising though. At least 57% are still. It's not as much as 86, but there's still half of.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit more than half.
Nina?
That is surprising.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that is surprising. I guess on that end, maybe because it's labor intensive, they feel like, hey, we have a job. I don't know. necessarily if if that's the reason why it's such a high spike. But I mean, I can see why it would be surprising to you, Javi.
Nina?
Yeah, I think it depends on the jobs because, I mean, you can obviously get a job that may not be labor intensive with just having a high school degree because, you know, I some of my peers in corporate America anyway, they didn't get a high school degree, but I think they still believe that they have a career track job, but the 86%, I completely agree with that. I mean, you kind of learn that in college, that you're gonna get into a job, and then where is your objective? Where are you headed, right?
Right.
So and you feel a little more confident about that because you've got that 4-year degree under your belt. You've got that experience.
You put in the work.
Yeah, exactly. So and sometimes that can be seen a little different by corporate America. I know sometimes they're like, oh, look at these millennials coming in here and thinking,
Overachieve.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder how many feel that they are going to have a job. 86%. I mean, apparently, what the statistics say. But coming out of college, you don't necessarily have it automatically booked. Like you don't have that job of, oh, I got the job.
Nope.
So I mean, I've just got my first job 3 months ago, almost a little under, and I graduated in 2012. So it's 2016 right now.
Right.
So it's 4 years later.
That's a really long vacation, Cindy.
Right?
How did you do it?
I enjoyed it.
You need to write a book.
I did take courses.
Well, you went to school.
I did go to school. I did apply. So I mean, I was
education.
definitely keeping busy. I can't not keep busy. I guess that's in our family. That for sure is. But I feel like a lot of students, we automatically are told, like Nina said, oh, college diploma is great. You earned it. You're gonna get a job. You're gonna be one of the high. But it's not always the case. Get out there. It's actually, you have to work to even get that job. You have to work for the interview. You have to be able to socialize and be able to realize how to
Sell yourself.
Exactly. Sell
Absolutely.
yourself.
And I mean, you brought up a good point earlier about internships, right? During your college time, and that is important. So I would say, if you can secure an internship just to get a little bit of an idea of what whatever field you're going into is like, so that you can kind of start to set yourself up for your career track job, and what your aspirations are. Because when you get out of college and you haven't done that, because I didn't do that, I didn't do internships. I did work a lot, but I didn't do internships in any specific career choice. So when I got out, I did go to the Career Center, which that's also, an option.
Look for one at your school.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And, they have those tests that you can take, and they tell you what careers, your personality is best, in type for and all of that. And, but anyway, yeah, I think it's, they prepare you to think that I'm going to walk out and, have my
the offer is
job.
right the next door.
Sign here.
Yeah. And for you and me, Javi, that was not the case. When we graduated in 2012, we spent a year, applying for. If you remember that, the economy was just starting to recover back from 2008. We were like, "Hey, how many jobs did you apply for today? 5. You? 3.
Yeah, it's pretty heartbreaking. Exactly. Applying and not getting anywhere, and that's when I started to realize the importance of internships. Like, it really does make a difference having something on your resume that employers are looking for.
And networking even,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, SMU has an array of alumni, and although the school itself, when you first approach it, can feel very intimidating and overwhelming, I have found time and time again that the alumni completely embrace the SMU culture. And so if someone knows, I mean, both of my jobs really that I've been introduced to have come through just that relationship or that defining thing that we have in common. I was like, oh, you went to SMU? Oh, I got my master's there, or my MBA, or,
Right.
And so, anyway.
It's that little spark that's...
No, that's extremely important. I know because I work for Fidelity. The networking is extremely important. I'm, terrible at it, and I don't do it because of the whole, it's me. And I'm comfortable where I am, so it's not like I need to do it. It's not like I'm graduating college and I need to do it. I do recommend you do it, but I do see the difference from the people that kind of don't do it and do it. In the 3 years I've been there, the people that do network and are very sociable, man, they like move up quickly. They speak to the VPs. They just you can see how their career is accelerated by it tremendously just by networking. I'm not even saying they're good at their job. Some of them aren't really good.
It's all about sometimes
just,
who you know.
Yeah,
it really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the relationships you build, and there's something impressive about someone who can just kind of put themselves forward as they are, and who they are, and so I think that really shines with people, and they go, oh wow, I really want to help this person. They may not be the best person for the job, but they've got that drive, or they've got that push. They've got so.
I see the potential.
Yes,
I believe.
Yes.
So that's
You gotta
also
make them believe.
Yeah, that's also something whenever anyone asks me anything, any tips for interviews, the first thing I always tell them is, if you really want the job, act like you want it, act like you'll make a difference, act like this is something that you've been wanting to do. Because I think everyone focuses on, like, I have to get the interview perfect, I have to answer every question perfectly, like, I have to, be there on the technical side of it. But I always tell them, like, no, yes, by all means, practice what you need to practice, but sell yourself, be yourself, like, show them that you want to be there, because from what I've seen, that's what they really care about. Like, they really care about someone they can invest time into, and it's not so much about does he know it now. It's
exactly, can you learn?
It's can you learn? Is he willing to learn?
Yep. I've said that several times. No, I don't know how to do this, but I work with things that are similar, and I will get on it. So let's move on.
That's great advice, to be honest. I feel like definitely you focus on the answer to the question, how am I answering or in interviews, versus actually just flowing and just being yourself and being open and being real with the person. And those are the people who, I guess, stick in memory for them. So that's good.
Yeah.
All right, so with investment in mind, I'll read off our last point. The same Pew research that we just read from before states that college grads says that college is worth it.
Okay.
The Pew Research Center states that college grads says that college is worth it. About 9 out of 10 college grads in every generation says that college has been worth the investment. Javier, reality or perception that 9 out of 10 college grads say college is worth it?
I would say that's still too high, maybe. Perception. I would say 7 out of 10. But what was the answer for the last one? Was that reality or was that perception?
Everyone said reality.
But what is it? Is it true?
Yeah, these are true. I've got this from.
Wait, so all of these are true?
Yeah, all of these are true.
Man, I thought it was like maybe. Oh, okay.
No, it depends.
Okay,
on
but
sample size.
yeah, I would have thought it'd be 7, not 9 out of 10.
I kind of agree with you there, Javi, because another thing I think of is I kind of seen, I don't know what TV show or what it was, but they mentioned basically how was my degree really worth it? And I know that they're also looking at how much did they have in loans and all this stuff, and so it's setting them back because of that. But there's different ways to look at it, but for 9 out of 10 grads in every generation to say college has been, I guess, worth the investment, I feel that's a little high. However, I mean, I would like for it to be that.
Okay.
So that's just...
Hina?
Well, since you said those were true statements,
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't understand the word perception, apparently.
I agree with it. I think most people who have gotten a college degree will say it's worth the investment because excuse me, it does come up, as you're advancing in your career, and and if you haven't gone to school or college, I mean, you still have the potential to have a great career track, but sometimes your company will say, hey, let's send you back to school because we want to make we would like
you.
Yes, we'd like to improve you. Why don't you
build
go
you
and
up.
why don't you go back and get your 4-year degree, and let's do that so that we can improve you and you can give back to us even better. So I'd say that's reality.
With that final thought, I'm going to agree. I'm going to say reality, because not just educational wise, but college is worth it, because I got to find myself. I got to figure out who I wanted to be. That's something very important. That's part of the journey that I think many people may take for granted today.
Well, you can't put a price value on.
You can't put a price value on that. You
Makes
have
sense.
to take the risk. You have to put yourself out there. And I have seen a lot of positive in my life because I was lucky enough to get to go to school and what's come out of that.
That's a good counter, to be honest. I feel like that is a good way to a counter argument to reality or perception, how you can see that's being reality.
Okay, and on that note, we are going to end our first episode. I would like to thank everyone for being here and testing out our first show. You can find us on the social medias. Please be on the lookout for that. And thank you and have a good night.